Hey everyone, welcome to the third episode of Microman, titled The Good, the Bad, and the Weird. So this episode will be more of an overview of microbiology, and I will tell you about the wide diversity of microbes. Those that fall into the category of the good, which I haven't really discussed a lot, but there's a lot of microbes that are used in biotechnology or that may be helpful, and a lot of them that are just kind of neutral and they don't even harm us at all. The bad, which is a lot of what I've discussed before, like a lot of these pathogens, like the things that make us sick, and the weird. So this is kind of a special category, but you'll kind of see as I go in my talk that there are some really weird microbes out there. So microbiology is actually derived from three Greek words. The first one, micro, is derived from the Greek word mikros, meaning small, which obviously makes sense since microbiology studies small organisms. The second word, bio, is derived from the Greek word bios, meaning life. The last word, logia, logi, is derived from the Greek word logia. Logia pretty much means to talk about or to study something. So putting all those words together, microbiology is the study of small life. So as you can see, this can be a pretty broad topic, and it is. So it is further broken down into different categories. First, you have the multicellular microbes, which microbiology tends not to focus too much on these, but these can include larger things, including worms, vectors that cause malaria, and other aspects. Then we have the unicellular. The unicellular this stands for single-celled organisms. This can be both larger ones, which are called eukaryotes, or the smaller ones, which we typically think of as bacteria and other things. Then there's also another aspect of microbiology which studies the acellular, meaning without any cell at all. This includes viruses, as well as a couple of special categories called viroids and prions, which I'll be talking later about in my video. Lastly, microbiology covers two more areas. Pathogens, or specifically microbial pathogenesis. So pathogens are basically things that make us sick. So a big aspect of microbiology is studying these, how they cause sickness, and ultimately how do we treat and cure this illness. And lastly, immunology. So immunology is our own immune system, so we're studying how does our body actually counter these microbes, how does it fight them off. And I'm going to go for a quick overview of all of this in today's episode, and I'll be discussing it in a lot more detail in future episodes. So to start off, I wanted to begin by talking about eukaryotic microbes, or specifically true-celled. So the eukaryotic microbes can be both big and small, and are generally bigger than the bacterial population that I've been talking a lot about. So there actually are some multicellular ones, which may include plants and animals, as well as algae. Algae is, believe it or not, it's not actually a plant, but it's actually a multicellular plant-like that falls into a different category altogether. So animal pathogens and microbes, it becomes a little bit ambiguous where the actual cutoff is, but some people may actually include dust mites in this category, various worms, including the ones that can infect you and cause like all kinds of disease. And like if you have pets, you may have heard of heartworm. Like all of these fall into multicellular microbes because they're too small to see, but at the same time, they still are infectious diseases as well. Then we come into molds. Like typically when you think of molds, you think of like, oh, my piece of fruit, it's like all moldy. It's like, oh, my bread got mold on it. Well, that's actually, those molds are actually tend to fall into the fungal category, as mold is actually a broader category, and there's a lot of different kinds. And typically they just grow like everywhere, like water. That's mold for you. Then you also have your fungal microbes. And this actually tends to be a broad category, as only certain fungus is actually categorized as a microbe. So includes, so when you think of fungus, we think of like mushrooms, mold. Yeah, that's pretty much what you typically think of. So big mushrooms and things that you can actually see, those are not really microbes. However, there are small ones like mold, mildew. These are microbes, and as well as some that you may not even know. The diseases, for example, athlete's foot, dandruff, these are actually both are caused by microbes, and these are fungal microbes. Yeah, but you didn't know that. So this is one category. Then we have another category, the protozoa or the protists. Like, these stand for some of the earliest life forms that are pretty large. So long story short, they believe that these larger cells, so it's like kind of like a larger cell, actually ended up engulfing or eating bacteria, and these bacteria began to grow within them, and they began to have like a relationship. It was they're actually helping each other, so a symbiotic relationship. And this is how certain parts of the cell, called mitochondria, which provides us energy, or chloroplasts, which allow photosynthesis in plants, how these actually are believed to have come to be. So there is a huge difference in the size because of the fact that these do have these extra tools available to them. They're able to grow a lot larger. They're a lot more organized, and they typically are a lot bigger than bacteria. And as far as microbes go, there are like a couple of them that you may have heard of, like amoeba, and there are some others. But this kind of summarizes all the large and eukaryotic microbes. So next I will be talking about another set of microbes known as prokaryotes. The pro actually meaning first. So these are broken down into two categories. The first one being archaea. Archaea is also another Greek word derived, basically meaning ancient. So these are the ancient microbes. And bacteria. So let's start off with bacteria, which are the good and the bad. So I know I've been talking a lot about bacteria and how they cause diseases and everything, but honestly, there's only a small proportion of bacteria that actually are bad or pathogenic, as it's properly referred to. There's actually a lot of good bacteria out there, including ones that are living within our intestines, inside our gut. A lot of these actually help us to break down nutrients. They help us to get more from the food that we eat, and it basically helps us be more nutritious. Not only that, but because they are living inside us, they help to train our body's immune system, helping it teach how to fight like a bunch of different microbes and like other bacteria. So these good bacteria, in exchange for living inside us, they also get a little bit of the nutrients and everything. So we feed them, they help us. It's like they're good. And a lot of other good bacteria that you may have heard of include the kind that we have eating yogurt. There's also like special kinds that are used in the biotech industry. So there are actually a lot of good bacteria. And as I mentioned, the bad ones are literally the ones that make us sick. But these only make up a small proportion of the bacteria. So that's the good and the bad. And of course we can't forget the weird. and that's archaea. So the reason why archaea are so weird is because of the fact that they are pretty unique. The reason why is because a lot of archaea fall into a category known as extremophiles, because they're extreme. Yeah. So these extremophiles live in conditions where nothing else wants to live. They can live at like extreme temperatures, like almost boiling water, like water that is like so salty that it's like nothing else wants to live there. And in weird areas where like there's no oxygen and like no nutrients and nothing, and it's like they can make nutrients in like their own way and produce energy. So they are pretty unique. That's why I refer to them as the weird. However, what's very interesting is that there actually are no known pathogenic archaea. So it's not believed that they actually, or none are, better to say, none are known that can actually make us sick. Lastly, archaea have actually started to come into the spotlight because of their potential use in the biotechnology, using in fuel, like to make fuels and all kinds of cool and interesting stuff. And I will be talking more about this in a future video, and you'll get to find out all the cool things about archaea, and as well as bacteria and their uses in biotech.